Smoke rose like a jagged scar across the skyline of New Shanghai, black against the orange glow of a setting sun. Satellites tracked it instantly, orbiting observers sending images to the command hubs, screens alive with the chatter of alerts and warnings. Lieutenant Commander Reyes stood in the command deck of the United Earth Orbital Defense Platform, fingers resting lightly on the console, as if touching the panic on the monitors could calm it. The dreadnoughts were coming. The galaxy's conquerors, the Varketh, had made their decision. Earth would fall like all the other worlds in their path. "Sir," a junior officer said, voice tight, almost breaking. "The Varketh are descending through the upper atmosphere. Estimated impact in 3 minutes." Reyes didn't flinch. His eyes flicked from one holographic display to another. "Let them see everything," he said softly, almost to himself. "Smoke, fire, the illusion of chaos. Let them think we're terrified. The moment they do, they'll make a mistake. They always do." The Varketh had a reputation. Efficient. Ruthless. Intelligent beyond measure. They moved through the stars like predators, consuming, conquering, erasing. Whole systems vanished under their engines, their fleets, their weapons. Humans were supposed to be irrelevant, a quaint oddity, a species too small and too slow to matter. And yet, there was a spark in human stubbornness that no one had counted on. The first column of their descent streaked across the sky, glowing like molten iron. It cast long, alien shadows across the streets, on the faces of civilians who, miraculously, didn't run. People stood at windows, on rooftops, some even applauding. Others filmed on their devices, uploading live feeds to the world. The Varketh expected panic, screams, surrender. Humanity had already rewritten that script. "Sir," the officer said again, voice tighter now, "surface scanners indicate minimal active defenses. Their ground units are already deploying." "Deploying what?" Reyes asked, tone steady. "Units are walking. They're humanoid, yes, but no recognizable weapons systems." Reyes smiled faintly. "Good. Let's see how confident they are without knowing we've already prepared everything. Keep comms open. Don't react until we give the signal." Below, the city quivered with the first contact of invaders. Dropships disgorged armored Varketh soldiers onto the streets, their armor glinting in the dying sunlight. They moved with precision, scanning, cataloging, measuring the humans they assumed were inferior. One of them, a high-ranking operative, hissed something through its translator, a series of clicks and shrieks. "Primitive. Inadequate. Resistance, optional." Reyes leaned over the display, watching the feed. "Optional, huh? We'll see about that." In the alleys, in the shadows between buildings, humans weren't cowering. They weren't hiding. They were watching, calculating, waiting. Improvised barricades were already in place, street corners rigged with electromagnetic pulse emitters scavenged from derelict satellites. Engineers had converted subway tunnels into mazes that could crush an armored vehicle like a tin can. Humans had never relied solely on brute force, they relied on wit, cunning, and a willingness to be absurdly, terrifyingly creative. A Varketh patrol advanced through the central plaza. One officer, young and naive, tapped at its scanner. "Organic matter, 12,000. Probability of resistance, low. Engagement unnecessary." It stepped forward, confident. A loud squawk erupted from the nearby fountain. Small, sleek shapes darted in the air. Tiny, black and white forms, armored in miniature exocets, each carrying neural disruptors. The Varketh froze for the briefest instant. The human in the alley grinned. "Surprise," she whispered, and the creatures launched. The operative didn't register before its circuits fried, a puddle of ichor spilling across polished stone. The squad around it hesitated, confused, unprepared. "Attack patterns, erratic. Probability, unacceptable." One stammered through its translator. "Erratic, huh?" Reyes murmured. "They haven't seen anything yet." In the observation deck, Sergeant Mallory chuckled, low and rough. "Adorable little murder birds," she said. "They've been trained to short-circuit a Varketh brain in under 3 seconds. You think these idiots were expecting penguins and exosuits? Reyes didn't answer. He didn't need to. The humans had already written the first page of the story. The aliens were learning a lesson they weren't equipped to understand. Probability does not account for human imagination. Above them, orbital cannons were active but invisible, their targeting systems silent. Earth didn't have the massive fleet the Varketh expected. Humans had something subtler. They had patience, timing, and they had instinct. The dreadnought itself touched down in the outskirts of the city, thrusters melting asphalt, concrete cracking. The Varketh commander disembarked, tall, armored, alien eyes glowing with arrogance. Surrender. Compliance will be tolerated. Resistance will be obliterated. A child on the street threw a rock at the commander's leg. It bounced harmlessly, but the act carried weight. The Varketh stared, baffled. A human, insignificant in size, had dared mock a conqueror. The commander's translator emitted clicks of disbelief. Why is this species fearless? Reyes spoke into his comms, quiet but sharp. All units, engage only on my mark. Let them make mistakes first. Observe, adapt, exploit. Humans in the alleys nodded. Engineers in the buildings tapped screens, activating hidden systems. Civilians pushed carts of scavenged electronics into trap zones. From the shadows, Reyes watched the theater unfold. Every step, every move, had been calculated. Yet none of it felt mechanical. It was instinct. Human instinct. The Varketh thought they had the advantage of time. They were wrong. Every system they assumed was inoperative had been re-engineered. Every strategy they relied on had been predicted. And they had underestimated one thing entirely: human joy in chaos. A soldier called out, voice cracking. They are laughing at us. Yes, Reyes said, almost reverently. And that is your warning. They are not afraid. They are human. And that is what makes them deadly. The dreadnought's engines hissed, the ground quaking beneath it. Smoke and fire rose around it. Humans weren't retreating, they were preparing. The first strike hadn't even begun, and already, the aliens were second-guessing every assumption, every calculation. The humans didn't fight like any species they had conquered before. They fought like architects of chaos, sculptors of destruction, and performers in a deadly theater that only they understood. Reyes leaned back, hands steepled. Let the invasion begin, he murmured. And somewhere in the city, a child laughed, a single, perfect, defiant sound that promised the galaxy was about to learn a new kind of fear. The first wave of conventional assault had been met with confusion, then panic. The Varketh had arrived expecting an easy conquest, a planet that would bend and scream at their presence. They were wrong. Terribly wrong. Reyes stood on the observation deck, eyes fixed on the screens that displayed the streets below. Smoke and fire coiled upward, obscuring what remained of the city. The humans moved through it like predators, but unlike the Varketh, they were not predators in the sense of inevitability. They were predators in the sense of intelligence, improvisation, and most importantly, unpredictability. Sir, multiple enemy squads neutralized, reported Sergeant Mallory, her voice tight with controlled exhilaration. Probability of organized resistance from this sector 0. Yet casualties on our side remain negligible. Good, Reyes said, his tone deceptively calm. He swiveled to the tactical map. Red dots scattered across the city indicated Varketh units. Green, glowing clusters showed human positions. We've let them think they're in control. Now it's time to remind them what humans do when underestimated. The first human response wasn't expected. Not by any standard military doctrine, not by any AI predictive model, not by the alien psychology manuals that dictated the Varketh approach to war. From the rooftops, from the alleys, from underground access points, humans began deploying what could only be described as improvised yet terrifyingly effective weaponry. Subway cars became mobile battering rams, mounted on reinforced wheels and converted into electromagnetic siege engines. Household drones, rigged with acid emitters and micro-railguns, zipped through the air, their targets the Varketh patrols who had assumed flight superiority. Even ordinary street lighting had been retrofitted, electrical conduits overloaded and channeled into bursts of concentrated energy that corroded alien armor like acid on paper. "Look at them," Mallory said, pointing to a live feed. "They're weaponizing everything. I mean everything. That's a vending machine, Reyes. A vending machine is fighting back." Reyes smiled faintly. "Humans don't wait for perfection. They fight with what's available, and they enjoy the absurdity of it. That enjoyment is a weapon the Varketh will never anticipate." The aliens tried to adapt. Their dreadnought unleashed a concentrated energy pulse across the plaza, vaporizing cars and flattening buildings. The humans responded almost immediately. Smoke generators had already coated the area, disrupting sensor arrays. Holographic projectors created illusions of multiple squads, moving in every direction. Some humans were even using makeshift magnetic grappling hooks to swing across debris, attacking from impossible angles. One Varketh squad attempted a frontal advance through the central boulevard. They moved as a unit, shields raised, weapons charged. By protocol, they should have crushed any resistance. Instead, they found themselves trapped. Streets had folded like origami, barriers rising from the asphalt, buildings pivoting on hidden hydraulic systems. The squad commander hissed into his translator. "Illogical. Impossible. Terrain, hostile." The human who had orchestrated the trap appeared on a nearby rooftop, rifle slung casually over her shoulder. She raised a hand and shrugged. "You should have read the manual," she said aloud, though the Varketh wouldn't understand the words. They understood the effect. One by one, the squad units were neutralized, their circuits fried or their bodies incapacitated. In another sector, Reyes watched a particularly audacious maneuver. A group of humans had commandeered a Varketh transport, turning it into a mobile battering unit. They drove it directly into a Varketh platoon, armor plating and thrusters amplifying the impact. Alien soldiers were thrown aside like rag dolls. The humans jumped from the transport before it crashed, moving like predators in perfect coordination. "Observe the laughter," Mallory said, gesturing to civilians who had come out of hiding, joining in the operation with improvised explosives and hacked electronics. "They're enjoying this. They're terrifying because they find fun in the chaos." Above, orbital surveillance recorded every movement. The Varketh fleet, still hesitant, had begun to comprehend the scope of human unpredictability. Their instruments were failing, not due to superior technology, but because humans didn't follow predictable patterns. Every pattern they assumed, every calculation they made, failed. Humans adapted in real time, making decisions that no algorithm could anticipate. "Sir," an analyst called, "Varketh morale is dropping across the board. Units are hesitating, retreating in some areas. They're panicking." Reyes didn't celebrate. Panic in an enemy was dangerous. It was unstable. That instability was exactly what humans needed. "Good," he said. "Let them panic. Let them underestimate the danger of a species that refuses to behave predictably." On the ground, the humans escalated further. Makeshift flamethrowers sprayed molten metal in arcs, knocking alien units off balance. Electromagnetic pulses disabled communication arrays. Even simple tools became deadly. A steel pipe reinforced with alien alloys shattered drones, while chemical compounds scavenged from industrial plants corroded Varketh armor in minutes. In the streets, Reyes observed a curious scene. A squad of humans had surrounded a Varketh operative, not to kill immediately, but to confuse, harass, and taunt. They moved in and out of cover, firing in bursts that forced the alien to retreat, then advancing when it faltered. The operative's translator emitted clicks of frustration and incomprehension. "Organic matter, superior in adaptability, resistance, unexpected." "Exactly," Reyes said quietly. "That's what humans do best. They take every advantage the enemy gives and make it lethal." Mallory shook her head, incredulous. "Do you think they realize the Varketh are panicking?" "The fear, Reyes. They're terrified, and they don't even understand why." "Humans don't need the enemy to understand," Reyes replied. "We just need them to fear the consequences of underestimating us." As night fell, the city became a labyrinth of light, smoke, and destruction. Explosions illuminated the streets like fireworks in a cruel festival. Humans moved in small, coordinated units, striking, retreating, and striking again. They were everywhere and nowhere, impossible to track, impossible to anticipate. For every Varketh soldier eliminated, 3 more had to divert resources to contain the chaos. Every victory the aliens thought they achieved turned into a trap. Reyes leaned back in his chair, observing the ballet of chaos below. "Let them see the cost of arrogance," he said. "They expected a planet to surrender. They got a species that laughs while the galaxy burns." And then came the signal. A single, brief comm from the Central Command. "Sir, the Varketh dreadnought is preparing to fire. Estimated surface impact 30 seconds. Reyes smiled faintly. "Let it fire. Let it think it will change the outcome. Humans have already decided the game isn't about brute force, it's about intelligence, creativity, and chaos. Let's remind them why that's terrifying." Below, a child ran through a broken street, carrying a small, improvised device that would, in moments, disrupt the dreadnought's targeting systems. A woman fired a makeshift railgun from a rooftop. In the alleyways, laughter echoed as humans dismantled drones in midair with nothing but slingshots and magnetic traps. The Varketh had expected order. They had expected fear. Instead, they found improvisation, unpredictability, and defiance. Humanity had taken the first punch and delivered a counterstrike that no one in their galaxy would forget. And Lieutenant Commander Reyes, watching it all unfold, knew this was only the beginning. The Varketh were breaking. Not physically, they still had armor, weapons, and numbers, but mentally, they were unraveling. The humans had proven that brute force alone could not win this war. Every assumption the aliens had relied upon, every formula, every probability model, had failed spectacularly. Lieutenant Commander Reyes watched the feeds from the observation deck of the United Earth Orbital Defense Platform, eyes sharp, unblinking. The dreadnought's energy fields flickered under repeated human interference. Drones exploded midair. Entire Varketh squads disappeared into traps crafted from debris, machinery, and sheer improvisational genius. And yet they still advanced, still thought they could take the planet. "Sir," Sergeant Mallory said, voice low, almost reverent. "They're adapting. Some units are retreating, but the High Command, they're still trying to calculate human behavior." "The problem? They can't. It's impossible." Reyes nodded. "Impossible for them. Perfect for us." The humans had been preparing something else, something the Varketh could neither predict nor resist. Years of study had given humanity insight into alien behavior, physiology, even neurological patterns. And from that study had been born the emotive disruptor, a device designed not to destroy the body, but to break the mind. To flood it with the consequences of every atrocity the Varketh had ever committed, multiplied by every fear and regret their species could comprehend. Reyes activated the system. Across the battlefield, alien eyes widened in horror. Screeching clicks and tones filled the air as the Varketh reeled, disoriented. Every squad froze. Every drone faltered. Communication networks collapsed. Even the dreadnought shuddered, its systems overloading under the sudden psychic assault. One Varketh officer screamed through its translator, voice cracking. "Impossible! We are superior! Organic matter, primitive, cannot affect us this way." A human in a nearby street aimed a modified plasma rifle at a hovering drone. It exploded midair. "Try recalculating now," she muttered, voice dripping with dark humor, before ducking behind a pile of rubble and tossing a magnetic grenade. The streets had become a theater of human ingenuity. Improvised railguns fired with deadly precision. Electromagnetic nets ensnared patrols mid-movement. Even civilian tools had been converted into weapons of devastating effect, pipes reinforced with alien alloys, chemical compounds from industrial plants, hacked drones, all used in coordinated strikes that made the Varketh look like amateurs. "Sir, casualties among the enemy are mounting exponentially," reported an analyst. "They're not just fighting, They're panicking. Coordination is collapsing. The dreadnought has gone offline temporarily, and several capital units are immobilized. Reyes allowed himself a small, grim smile. Good. Let them panic. Fear is more lethal than any cannon. And humans know how to wield it. The Varketh commander, tall, imposing, armored in plates that had crushed entire planets' defenses before, staggered through the chaos, eyes wide. This cannot be happening. Resistance negligible. Yet we are defeated. A human from the rooftop stepped forward, holding a modified drone controller. Defeated? We haven't even started, she said, voice calm but sharp. We've been observing, calculating. And now you're learning the cost of arrogance. The commander hissed, spittle flying. We underestimated the species. We underestimated intelligence, creativity, unpredictability. Exactly, Reyes said into the comms. And this is what happens when you underestimate humans. The humans moved like shadows. One group had rigged entire districts into traps, buildings set to collapse in controlled patterns that funneled enemy units into kill zones. Another unit manipulated gravity-based fields scavenged from experimental labs, sending armored Varketh drones tumbling through the air. Each strike was precise, deliberate, terrifying. In the central plaza, a single Varketh operative tried to rally its squad. Advance! Neutralize! Take the city! Its translator emitted frantic, broken commands. But the humans were already ahead. A magnetic rail shot from a nearby rooftop tore through the squad's formation. Another operative's armor short-circuited from an EMP grenade. By the time they understood what had happened, they were incapacitated or captured. Reyes watched the aftermath. Streets littered with destroyed drones, incapacitated Varketh units, and human operatives moving calmly among them, assessing, salvaging, and preparing for the next strike. This was not chaos. It was controlled chaos, a weapon shaped by intelligence and cruelty tempered with precision. Sir, Mallory said, pointing to the dreadnought. It's offline. They've lost central control. All remaining units are attempting manual coordination. Response time is delayed. Human efficiency has outpaced their strategy entirely. Excellent, Reyes replied. Prepare to exploit it fully. Initiate Phase 2. Phase 2 was psychological warfare, amplified by human ingenuity. Captured Varketh soldiers were not immediately executed. Instead, humans used the translator networks to broadcast recordings of previous battles, edited to exaggerate failures and fear. Every corner, every street, every building became a stage for terror. The Varketh commander watched as its units hesitated, some fleeing, some fighting aimlessly, some turning on each other in confusion. Why are they, organized yet chaotic? Why do they laugh? The commander hissed. Its translator emitted frantic, broken clicks. This species, impossible. Reyes leaned forward, voice low, calm, but cutting through the comms. They are humans. And you just realized the first truth about us. We do not follow rules you can predict. We do not fight how you expect. We turn your arrogance into your undoing. The commander staggered, spittle flying, eyes glowing with fear and rage. The humans pressed forward, exploiting every hesitation, every miscalculation. Railguns, EMP devices, improvised explosives, all synchronized to a rhythm that the Varketh could not comprehend. By the time the dreadnought attempted to regain control, entire squads had been captured, immobilized, or destroyed. Sir, Mallory said, voice tight. The Varketh morale is collapsing entirely. High command units are signaling for withdrawal, but their fleet is tied up. They cannot retreat without heavy losses. Let them try, Reyes said. They've already learned the lesson. The galaxy will remember this. And humanity will only grow stronger from it. In the aftermath, the humans didn't celebrate. They repaired, reorganized, and prepared. They salvaged alien technology, reverse engineering it, improving it, turning it back on the invaders. Every act, every movement, was calculated to maximize effect and minimize risk. The Varketh had assumed superiority, but humans had proved that even the mightiest empire could crumble in the face of a species that refused to be predictable. Reyes allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They came to conquer. They've been taught to fear. And they'll never forget it." Above the city, smoke and fire mingled with the light of a setting sun. The humans moved through the chaos calmly, methodically, and with a dangerous sense of humor. They had not merely survived, they had dominated, intellectually and psychologically. And the Varketh would never, ever underestimate humanity again. The Varketh retreat was not orderly. It was a scramble, a collapse of coordination and morale that left entire fleets stranded, dreadnoughts crippled, and officers screaming in panic. Their arrogance had been shattered, their strategies rendered useless, and their confidence, once absolute, was now fractured into shards. Humanity had not only survived the invasion, it had turned the galaxy's most feared empire into a panicked, retreating shadow of itself. Lieutenant Commander Reyes watched the live feeds from the observation deck of the United Earth Orbital Defense Platform, eyes scanning every screen with the precision of a hunter assessing prey. Streets below glimmered with the aftereffects of the battles, destroyed drones, immobilized dreadnoughts, and humans calmly moving among the wreckage. Every captured Varketh unit was disarmed, every trap catalogued for future defense, every weapon salvaged for potential use. "Sir," Sergeant Mallory said, leaning over a tactical display, "the Varketh High Command is signaling for a full retreat. They're abandoning all colonies within range and prioritizing the extraction of command units. Even with their fleets intact, they've lost the initiative. They can't fight this species in the field." Reyes nodded, a small, grim smile forming. "Let them leave with their pride shattered. We don't need to pursue. Let the story of this defeat travel ahead of them. Let it echo across their systems like a warning." The humans on the ground moved with purpose, but without haste. They had not only defended Earth, they had rewritten what it meant to be a human civilization under fire. Makeshift weapons were dismantled and catalogued, strategic traps converted into permanent defense grids, and captured alien technology was reverse-engineered, repurposed, and integrated into Earth's systems. Even in victory, there was no recklessness, no arrogance, only preparation for the next inevitable challenge. In the central plaza, Reyes descended to the streets to confront the Varketh commander. The alien, battered, trembling, and covered in scorched armor, hissed through its translator. "This cannot be. We are superior, we are invincible, yet your species—" "Superior?" Reyes interrupted, voice low, cutting, almost surgical in its precision. "You thought superiority was a guarantee. You were wrong. Intelligence, creativity, unpredictability, that's human superiority. You assumed fear would make us submit. It didn't. And now you've learned your first lesson about underestimating us." The commander tried to speak again, but the words came out fractured, broken by the psychic strain of the emotive disruptor, the psychological attacks, and the chaos humans had unleashed. We failed, impossible, they—" "Yes," Reyes said simply. "Humans do not fail. We adapt, we improvise, and we exploit every mistake. And you made them all." Around them, the remaining Varketh units were rounded up, stunned or captured, their dreadnoughts disabled and their technology dismantled. Civilians moved among the ruins, cheering quietly, salvaging, and beginning reconstruction. There was a sense of calm after chaos, but it was a dangerous calm, the kind that comes from a species that knows it has survived not by luck, but by brilliance. Mallory approached Reyes, her expression a mix of awe and dark humor. "You think they'll ever come back?" she asked, gesturing toward the retreating Varketh ships on the horizon. "They might," Reyes replied, eyes narrowing. "But next time, they won't be greeted. They'll be hunted. Every system they touch, every fleet they deploy, they'll remember today. Humanity doesn't forgive, and we never forget." The aliens' retreating transmissions were a chorus of panic and disbelief. Their high command scrambled messages, trying to comprehend the scale of their failure, but the humans had already dictated the narrative. Every officer who survived would carry the story of Earth, the planet where a single species refused to submit, where logic and expectation failed, and where improvisation and brutality reigned. In the aftermath, Earth's cities were damaged but intact. Humans began clearing rubble, restoring utilities, and repurposing alien technology into infrastructure that would enhance defense for decades. Reyes walked through the streets alongside Mallory, observing both the wreckage and the calm resilience of civilians who had witnessed the impossible. A child ran past, waving a small drone that had been reprogrammed as a toy. "Look!" the child shouted. "I caught it!" Reyes smiled faintly. "They'll grow up knowing what it means to survive, and what it means to fight." Mallory's grin was darker, sharper. "And what it means to make an entire empire fear your species. They underestimated humans once. Never again." As night fell, the sky over Earth glimmered with the retreating Varketh ships, their lights flickering in fear and confusion. The stars beyond were untouched, vast, silent witnesses to the first human triumph over a galactic empire. But Earth's people did not celebrate with fireworks or songs. They celebrated quietly, with the calm efficiency of a species that understood both the cost of victory and the lessons it demanded. "Sir," Mallory said, voice softening, almost reflective, "do you think the galaxy will ever understand what it just witnessed?" "Some will," Reyes replied, voice low, heavy with certainty. "Some will never believe it. But every species that reaches for arrogance, that assumes weakness, will remember Earth. They will remember humans. And they'll remember that underestimating us is fatal." The Varketh High Overlord, finally captured and restrained, glared at the humans. Its translator emitted frantic, broken clicks. "This cannot be the outcome." Reyes leaned close, voice calm but lethal. "It is. And it will be for every system you touch from now on. Run now, if you value what's left of your pride. But know this, next time, we won't warn you. Next time, we won't hold back." The Overlord fell silent, eyes wide, the realization of human genius, unpredictability, and cruelty settling in. The galaxy had learned its first real lesson about humanity, a species that fought not with predictable force, but with intelligence, chaos, and creativity, and above all, with the unshakable willingness to endure, adapt, and dominate. Reyes looked up at the stars, smoke and fire still lingering on the horizon. Humanity had survived its first interstellar invasion, and it had done so not by the luck of numbers or technology alone, but by being terrifyingly human. The galaxy would never forget. And somewhere in the distance, a laugh echoed through the ruins, a simple, perfect, defiant human laugh, carrying the promise that the species that had just survived the impossible would continue to thrive, adapt, and remind the universe that no empire, no matter how vast or arrogant, could ever control the unpredictable. Earth had been invaded. Humanity had responded. The galaxy had been warned. And the legend of the species that laughed while a conqueror fell had just begun.